enjoyed Sequel Bits, but I didn't know as many people at Pass, which isn't a bad thing. You meet new people, but at Pass, I feel like I know a lot of people, and so it's like, hey, and so I kind of like that. I feel more comfortable at Pass. I've been doing Pass. I think I've done it like 5 times. Yes, first time was 13 years ago. I'm just more comfortable with Pass, but I really did enjoy Sequel Bits. I really had fun at that party. The Pass parties aren't the same.
You're politically correct. Richie, what do you still haven't picked your conference benefit for this year, have you?
His conference benefit is fixing his house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how am I going to mix all that into...
You could go to a builder convention or a plumber
convention.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that this weekend, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not think I'm going to have time this year to sneak something in, because everything's happening really fast right now with the house, so kind of need to be close.
Is it happening really fast? Because it doesn't seem. It seems really.
Oh no! It's happening a lot faster than I expected it to.
Yeah.
Remember, I live in the Banana Republic, and
Yes.
just things are kind of insane. But no, I'm really happy with the way things are moving, and things have changed, right? So, they come in. We wanted to move the laundry around, and they couldn't get it done. So, for reasons, I don't know. And so we're making changes on the fly, and so that takes time. So we're just adapting, put a change request in.
It's nice because at the end of it, you almost have like a whole new house to move back into.
Yeah, the only thing that wouldn't be new is the internal walls, the external walls, and the roof.
Yeah, but the floor, the plumbing, the kitchen, the bathrooms.
All sorts of houses,
Yep.
rooms rather.
Yeah, we're getting we have a sunken like den-ish area, and the family room and in the den, and that's all getting filled in with concrete. And we're like, well, since you'll be filling in concrete through the rest of the house, might as well finish this one off. So.
Are you gonna have a jungle room?
It's Miami.
No,
I think every room is a jungle room.
Yeah, it's true.
They got a real leopard.
Well, let's see here. We'll jump into the technical questions. Any questions that y'all want to ask, feel free to put them into the Q&A panel over and go to webinar. So we'll start with Lee. Lee says, a vendor made a change on an app server, and now my error log is full of these errors. Login failed for user X. Could not find a name matching. Any ideas on what I should tell them to look for? I don't have access to that app server.
I used to have to just ignore that message when I worked at Qualcomm. There was some issue with the SCOM server or something like that, and they couldn't figure out why it was doing it. But eventually, I just stopped looking at the error log. It was just clogged, and because I don't think you can you turn off failed login attempts? I mean, you can turn off successful. I don't know that you can turn off the failed one. So, at some point, the spamming of the error log, like, oh, I guess I can't use that tool anymore, except to filter it to find what I want to look for. But start with the IP. I mean, you've got the IP address. You know what box is doing it. Really hard to say what to do from there, but look for a scheduled task or an application running.
Well, and leave it. Who cares?
Well, the only thing I care about is the spamming of the error log. The error log is supposed to be used for troubleshooting issues. My client this week has successful logins going into the error log, and it's happening multiple times per second, I think it was, or per minute maybe. I was like, this is unusable now. I can filter for the 4 things I filter for, but that's not going to find anything else.
You know about the minus sign trick with error IDs?
Mm-mm.
Well, that's only an event viewer.
Oh, event viewer, yeah, too, not the
it's
error
not
log.
in,
Yeah,
not
that's
in
true.
the SQL. Well, I mean, you can sort of,
And even event viewer is becoming not usable tool.
Yeah, the minus sign filter helps in there.
Yeah.
Glenn says, we have to move a 2-node AG to a different VM. I've been told that the servers have to be powered down in order to migrate. I've already have so many questions. Any thoughts on the best way to bring down the AGs or the cluster to accomplish the move without going to hell in a handbasket? Also, a new IP for the Heartbeat network. Oh, come on.
Wow. I think at that point, I would just build new servers on this new VM. It sounds too complicated, and I suspect availability groups is not going to be happy with these changes.
No. Yeah, I'd probably just want to build out whatever new environment I'm going to migrate to and set up AGs over there and then reset them up again. There's just too many changes all at once. That's a lot of moving pieces. VMs, AGs, IPs.
Yeah.
Michael Tilley asks, how does one go about ordering an autographed copy of the book Great Post, Erik? So there may be a book signing event at PASS. We're kind of waiting to see how that goes. But even if not, what you do is bring your book to the bar whenever Erik's around there, and he will sign Itzik Ben Ghan.
Mr. Buy Me a Drink.
Crystal says, I'm going to be adding a rowversion column to some of our tables for sending back to a data warehouse. We used to use a changed on UTC column and trigger on that. Are there any gotchas I should be looking out for when adding a rowversion column?
I mean, adding any column to a table is going to have, I mean, like not like adding the column. If you add like a not null column to a table, you're not going to do too much damage. But if you have like a default for it, or if you need to go populate that column later, obviously you could run into some issues with like locking and all that good stuff. So I would be, pretty judicious in how I populate that column. I wouldn't want to just, have it all filled in at once.
Makes sense. Chris also says he's going to New York City. What are Brent's favorite places to eat there? Well, and Erik lives in Brooklyn, so he should answer this too. Erik, what are your favorite places to eat in New York City? He's staying near Times Square.
Yeah, so tip number 1, get the hell out of Times Square.
Yeah.
Like, just leave. Don't avoid at all costs. Don't go to Ruby Tuesday. Don't go to Bubba Gum Shrimp or whatever the crap it is.
Don't take a picture with Spider-Man.
But just visit it for a tourist thing, but leave 15 minutes later. It's just crowded.
Watch out.
Go to Midtown Comics and then leave. That's
Midtown Comics, okay.
Times Square Elmo will mess you up. He's armed. He has that dirty gym bag.
Oh, that's a mess. I would say my huge resource for it, like all my favorite restaurants have closed. This bums me out so much, but like ny.eater.com, this has their best restaurants of New York, and they do this for all kinds of cities, San Diego, all kinds of places. And out of there, I'm going to scan down and see if I've hit any of them. I haven't hit Ping Seafood, Spicy Village. Was it any good?
Nah.
No, not that good.
It's okay.
it's number 1.
Balthazar, Katz's Deli.
It's okay. It's, if you want like a really big $20 sandwich, then go to Katz's. I don't know that I'd want.
Momofuku.
I like the name.
That's a real name, yeah. They're what's the dessert one?
The dessert one.
Momofuku has a dessert one. I can't remember if they call it Milk Bar. Milk Bar, I think it's called. I really like that one.
Is that David Chang's restaurant?
Yeah. So anyway, I would start here. Start there and run from there. Sheila says, I added an index last week. This week my batch process is running far better. The index shouldn't have made that big of a deal. Would a query plan change occur from the index and make it that much better?
You know how indexes work, right?
No, probably.
No, I mean, like if I'm thinking about ways to change a query plan, an index is going to be like one of the first things. If I'm looking at unclogging a weird process like that, indexes are going to be one of the first things I look at. Not just adding them, but getting rid of like ones that, if I have like a write-intensive process, getting rid of a whole bunch of indexes that aren't living up to their duty, I'm going to get rid of those too. But adding an index is like hands down like one of the top things that you can do. Like even before like rewriting a query, using a temp table, doing other stuff, adding an index is like
that's your first.
What I'm going to go for. Yeah, that's like my first stop. What index can I to make this less horrible?
And maybe you didn't think it was going to help, but maybe it got rid of an expensive key lookup, and that was the whole bottleneck of the query.
Sort, key lookup, improved a join, improved some sort of aggregation. Who knows? It could have even helped more than one query. That's the beauty of indexes. Like, isn't it like you add an index and you're like, you're for this query. No other query can use you. You're special. No, lots of stuff can use them. So if you found that query in like your missing index DMVs or something, then it's totally possible that more than one query was able to benefit from it.
Or it might have been close enough that other queries, even if it wasn't their ideal index, it was good enough.
And to help answer this question for the future on her server, instead of logging to a table via SP who is active, and if you had that in place, you could go back in time and look at the execution plan from that process and then compare it to what it is now, and you'd be able to answer it yourself.
Speaking of indexes, Steve says, when it comes to missing index advice from execution plans, what's the best rule of practice or a good rule of thumb for includes when you think there are too many?
I know Brent's rule of thumb.
What is Brent's rule of thumb?
Well, just no more than 5 indexes per table, and then no more than 5 columns per table, and that includes the includes. Your key plus includes. My restriction isn't that low, but when it's recommending 50, I'm like, okay, that's enough. That is way too many. Just chop off the includes at that point, and then check the execution plans for whatever, if you can figure out what query it was targeting, and see, is there an expensive key lookup? Do you really need to return 50 columns from this query?
I think my rule is probably a little bit closer to 10 and 10, but that's because I don't do a lot of pure, at least historically, I haven't done a lot of purely OLTP work. My stuff is always a big hunk of reporting on top of stuff, so I'm a little bit more kind to having some extra indexes around. But yeah, Tara's right about that. I also have a session at Group By that's free that you can go watch about improving select star query performance.
Yes.
So if you go watch that, you can learn a way to change the way the query, the query is written, so that you can take advantage of narrower indexes without having to worry about adding all 50 includes. Because those missing index requests are kind of idiots, right? They're just like bad teenage cries for help. They're gonna ask for every single included column. There's no filter on the kind of columns that get included. You can end up with long string columns in there, XML columns, var any idiotic data type, that anything that the optimizer is oh, but it'll be cheaper. It'll just say included in the index. I don't care. No penalty. Everything's free. It's just an include. Don't worry.
And so, some of those are going to fail. You bar chart max. It's not possible in the index.
So
Paul asked a question I think we're all going to arm wrestle to answer. We'll be so excited.
It's going to be Richie for sure.
Paul says, when I'm running merge replication, is there a way other than initialization to resync all the data from the publisher to the subscriber?
If you don't mind a full copy of your database over there, just do backup restore. Sync it up that way, and you could ship apply transaction logs to get it more in sync, and then once it's in sync with the publisher, then set up replication and tell it I'm already ready to go. I've already manually synced it on my own. But that if you're only going to be replicating some of your tables, that might not be a good solution. But if you're going to be replicating all of them or most of them, then backup and restore is a really good solution for that. And if you need to drop tables, you can do that at that point. But at least gets you past the point where the initialize is going to take you several hours, and it affects the publisher as it's happening. So backup and restore wouldn't affect the publisher.
Nice. Sri asks. Now we're going to make Richie come back to the microphone.
Mm-hmm. Is the bad question gone?
Only the first one. Sri asks, what are your thoughts on the Dockers and CI/CD? He ducks, I guess. Richie, what do you think?
I love continuous integration. I love continuous deployment. And not yesterday, as probably the team could tell you, as everything started breaking and I couldn't figure out why. Here's a quick hint. It was someone else's software. It wasn't ours. Yep. It wasn't Brent's either.
For once.
Yeah, exactly. Continuous integration, continuous development, they're phenomenal. They've been, I think, a boon to us developers as far as be able to get things out quickly and with a high level of confidence of quality, and that bugs will not be infecting our code. So now that we've got, Amazon publishing a new release every 12 seconds or something crazy like that, we couldn't do that before. So CI/CD is something I think every software team. I mean, I'm a software team of 1 right now, and I'm using CI/CD. So there you go. There's the value right there. Dockers, I haven't used Docker. Sorry, I haven't had really that much of an opinion. So again, team of 1, haven't need to be sliding things in and out or do anything like that. Haven't really needed it. I've got no opinion on it. or the Kubernetes or whatever the cool kids are doing these days. Don't know. I am blissfully ignorant on the topic.
It feels like there's, especially if you listen to the Microsoft buzz, it seems like they latch on to any buzzword that's flying by and they try to stick it to the SQL Server product with Velcro. Yeah. Artificial intelligence, got it. Okay, yeah, let's smear some of that on there. R and Python, yeah. Oh, smear that on there. Oh, here comes some Docker. Grab that out of there. And I'm like,
Linux. Oh.
Yeah. Machine learning. Because, I mean, they've just missed the boat so terribly on so many things. It's like, I'm surprised that SQL Server doesn't have like an internet browser in it. Just
it's like, the internet? That will never be a thing. What are you talking about?
Like, Outlook for SQL Server. Like, what the?
I don't know. For me, as far as Docker on the server, it still doesn't make a lot of sense for me, right? Maybe because I've been playing in the cloud too long, and I just let the cloud vendor handle how they want to do the implementation. But if I was in-house and someone said, hey, why don't we just throw a Docker out there for SQL Server, I'm like, why? What is it really buying us? And I haven't really been able to grok my head around that quite yet. So,
especially compared to platform as a service, where they just manage everything for you.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why not we just throw it out there? Okay, is there? I mean, I guess then we start talking business reasons of why we would do this versus Docker versus the cloud or something like that, but or VM in-house versus something else. But you know, I just don't think it's that big of a deal when we're talking about a server to run the installer.
Okay. So hopefully, Sri, there's your answer. Rakesh experienced an issue in production with lots of queries waiting on resource semaphore query compile. Wants to know if that's the cause or the effect. When you start seeing resource semaphore query compile, what do you look at next?
I look at what's running, and I look at how big that query plan is. So when resource semaphore query compile hits, to back up a little bit on that, when queries compile, there are different classes of memory, different classes of query depending on how much memory you need. There are queries that don't need any memory to compile. That's like very tiny, low-cost plans, and plans are already in cache. So they can just go and compile immediately. Then there's small gateway queries, which require, I think, like 380K of memory to get a query plan compiled for them. And then they kind of step up from there. And as you step up, you can have fewer and fewer queries that go into that gateway. So there's the no memory, small memory, medium, and then big. Up to 2014, you could only have one of those big queries going at a time. With 2014 had a trace flag. I forget what the trace flag is, but then 2016 and up had this different algorithm where they scale up the number of big queries you can have compiling at once, depending on how much memory you have. So with a 768 gig server, I'm really concerned, not only because you have queries coming in that need to compile all the time, and enough that you got blocked up on that, where like queries that like you should with 768 gigs, your plan cache should have the queries you need in there. Maybe forced parameterization is a good idea. Maybe optimize for ad hoc workloads is a good idea to help kind of reduce that. But resource semaphore query compile is when you hit like one of those gateways and you just have too many queries trying to go through it at once, and they sit around waiting to get additional memory to compile a query. Like they're not running, they're not getting data, they're not like going out and getting locks, they're not doing anything. They are stuck waiting just to get a query plan. So it's definitely a big enough problem that you're going to want to address that, and you're going to want to find a root cause on.
Yeah. Augusto asks, how do I get a Brent Ozar Unlimited signed by all of you guys book? I don't know that we're ever in the same place at the same time, except for the company retreat. And if you came to the company retreat, we would beat you senseless. We would, it's nothing against you personally. We just don't want to talk to, usually we just kind of decompress big time. And
there's so many SQL conversations that we don't have.
Yes. Mark says, table locks happen if you update 5,000 rows or more? Does the same locking happen if you have 5,000 or more deletes?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. That might be the very first time we've ever been done with a question.
Mm-hmm.
Keith says, what are everyone's thoughts on Query Store?
The new Query Store? What's the new Query Store?
His question says the new Query Store.
There's that old Query Store that's been around since 2016. Can't get anyone to use for some strange reason. But you know, it's nifty. I like it, but I can understand people's reticence in using it because you can't really choose where that data gets stored. You might be storing some crazy PII in there. It's just kind of hard to. It doesn't quite have the management features I think that a lot of people would want in order to start using it. That and you know, everyone who I talk to, well, not everyone, but a lot of people who I talk to at conferences are like, yeah, we're like, because like I talk about SP Blitz Query Store, because I wrote a whole store procedure. I was like that excited about it. I was like, look, I'm gonna write a store procedure. It's gonna do the same stuff as Blitz Cache, but with Query Store. And like no one uses it because no one has Query Store turned on. When I talk to people about it at conferences, they're like, we turned on Query Store and CPU use went through the roof. Like this bad stuff happened. like the drive filled up. I'm like, man. Wasted how many hours of my life writing a store procedure for something that makes CPU go through the roof and fills up drives. It's just like not. I can understand why people don't use it. I like it in theory. I like the prospect of being able to have long-term plan data in there and be able to like trend queries over time rather than just depending on that one plan that's in the plan cache. But like a lot of pushed out the door features for things in SQL Server, I'm not sure that it was quite 100% ready. Like extended events.
Oh, that's mean.
Wah, wah.
Extended events is the mobile browsing of user experiences and services. It's like there's a reason that everyone has an app instead of making people use a mobile site because it's just miserable and painful. And no matter what you do, you're just like in for pain, suffering, and disappointment.
So why is it that the people who evangelize Query Store also evangelize extended events? There's something in common.
Mm-hmm.
I want to believe in Query Store. Like I think that if I was a database administrator, I like to think that I would turn it on all my servers and just watch out for all the CUs because like this just came out in the most recent cumulative update. Database performance is bad without this cumulative update. So clearly there was a performance problem, but if it wasn't that big of a problem, man, I'd sure like to enable it.
Can we get you a poster of like SQL Server Query Store in the background and just says, I want to believe?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it'd be nice because, like, the plan cache is just so temperamental. It clears out, or like, it doesn't have all the plans in there. It doesn't keep a lot of historical information. So it would be beautiful to have that kind of stuff. I'm glad that it seems to be working for the robots up in Azure or whatever. That robots is helping Microsoft choose between Plan A and Plan B. For regular people, it's
that I just was cranking on a little bit a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
What were you cranking on?
Plan cache.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Tell us more.
We started collecting in the new version of Constant Care. We haven't implemented any ruling for it yet, but we're getting there. Getting the data is the first part, and then start applying rules to those plans is.
Figuring out how we're going to go through those plans, what we're going to do with them.
One of the users replied in because we sent out an email. Hey, there's an update to it, just to like early access beta users. Hey, there's an update. If you want, you can send us your query plans. You don't have to. One of the users who emailed in copied all his database admins, and he goes, I don't care what it takes. You give the Ozar people everything.
We are sending this data.
You're the key. Go away.
Rakesh follows up with his resource semaphore query compile and says, we have both optimized for ad hoc and force parameterization on. He also had mentioned that he started a case with Microsoft. That's awesome. It's just that you're not going to get an answer down to root cause analysis inside a free webcast. It's just no way we can pull that off. However, I want to leave you with where you should go, a couple places you can go for help. If you go to, let me go find the page for it, dba.stackexchange.com. So dba.stackexchange.com, you can post a multi-paragraph question. Just be cautious there because it's going to be super specific to your company. They're going to want evidence that you're going to have to be able to post publicly. It's not free consulting, it's free help, but you're getting to a point where Microsoft couldn't solve the problem. What you may ask for the community might be kind of tough to do. The other thing you can do is we have actual consulting. It just so happens that this is what we do for a living. If you go to brentozar.com and click on Critical Care up at the top, we do this 3-day consulting thing where we get to the root cause of your performance problems. So it may be the point where you need that as well.
And he also mentioned that the change to the latest cardinality resolved the issue. So if I wanted root cause analysis, I would switch it back and start troubleshooting what are the queries that are having this issue, what are the queries that have large unused memory grants, and maybe specifically on problematic queries, switch those guys to the legacy cardinality estimator, but not the whole box.
And to some extent, that's if you flip the CE and it suddenly started working, there's your root cause. You got queries that don't work well with that CE.
Mm-hmm.
You can either change the queries or you can change the CE.
But that is also valuable feedback for Microsoft. If flipping the CEs has that profound of effect on a server where like you go from being at a complete standstill with resource semaphore query compile waits to not having any and everything being fine and dandy, that's valuable feedback for them that should be shared, I think, because as much as we poke and prod, we do like to see a good competitive product that we have to work with day in day out.
And they want these edge cases too. They want to know when these edge cases hit that are so bad.
So that's Connor.Cunningham.
Oh, jeez. And his home phone number is. So that's it for Office Hours this week, everybody. Thanks for everybody for hanging out, and we will see y'all next week. Later.